My parents threatened to disown me if I didn't pay off my sister's $40,000 debt, so I went no contact, and what they did after will leave you speechless. I'm 30, male, and I've been on my own since I was 18. When I say on my own, I mean it. Financially, emotionally, you name it. My parents, let's just say, aren't exactly winning any awards for parenting or sibling support. They weren't the kind of parents who cheered you on or made you feel special. Instead, they had this unspoken rule that shaped my entire childhood. My younger sister, Anna, could do no wrong, while I was expected to be the responsible one. If Anna messed up, and believe me, she messed up a lot, it was brushed under the rug. She's just sensitive, my mom would say, or she'll learn eventually, which was code for let's pretend this never happened and hope she figures it out. Meanwhile, if I so much as stumbled, it was like the sky was falling. Why aren't you trying harder? You need to set a better example for your sister. It didn't matter what I did, it was never enough. I could bring home a report card full of A's, and they'd ask why I didn't get an A+ in math. But Anna? She could barely pass, and it was, at least you're doing your best, sweetie. That dynamic didn't stop when we became adults. If anything, it got worse. Anna stayed under my parents' roof until she was in her mid-20s, bouncing from one failed job to the next and always finding some excuse for why it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, I was out here working 2 part-time jobs to pay my way through college, figuring out how to manage rent and bills on my own. Not once did they offer to help me. Not that I expected them to, but it stung watching them bend over backward for Anna while I was left to fend for myself. Anyway, fast forward to 6 months ago. My mom called me. Now, you have to understand, my mom doesn't call just to chat. She doesn't call to check in or say hi. When she calls, it's because she needs something. You know the kind of call I'm talking about. The one that starts with overly sweet small talk, like they're trying to butter you up before dropping the real reason they're calling. That's exactly what happened. She started with, "How's work? Are you still at that company? Have you been eating well?" It was so out of character that I knew something was coming. My mom doesn't care how I'm eating. She doesn't even know what I do for a living beyond something with computers. The whole conversation felt fake, like she was trying too hard to sound casual. Then she hit me with it. Anna's in trouble. I wasn't surprised. Anna always seems to be in trouble. But I wasn't expecting this. Apparently, Anna had racked up $40,000 in debt. And not the kind of debt you can laugh off as youthful stupidity, like student loans or maxed-out credit cards. No, she had borrowed from some seriously shady people, and now they were getting serious about wanting their money back. My mom's voice cracked, like she was about to cry, which I'm sure she thought would make me cave. She didn't waste any time piling on the guilt. "You've done so well for yourself. You've always been the strong one. Anna's not like you. She needs your help." I sat there for a moment trying to process what she'd just said. $40,000. How does someone even manage to rack up that kind of debt? I asked her how it happened, half expecting some ridiculous excuse, and my mom brushed it off. "That doesn't matter right now," she said, like I was focusing on the wrong thing. "What matters is that she's your sister. Family helps family." That line, "family helps family," has been their go-to excuse for years. It's what they said every time they needed me to fix something for Anna, cover for her, or clean up whatever mess she'd made. And every time, I'd swallowed my frustration and done what they asked because I didn't want to be the bad guy. But this $40,000 debt? I couldn't do it. Not this time. I told her no, straight up. I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't bail Anna out of a mess she created." And just like that, the tone of the conversation shifted. My mom went from pitiful to pissed in about 2 seconds flat. "You're being selfish," she started to yell. "You're abandoning your family when they need you most." She even threw in, "Do you want her blood on your hands?" As if Anna's poor life choices were somehow my responsibility. At that point, I hung up. I couldn't listen to it anymore. My hands were shaking and my chest felt tight, but I knew I'd made the right decision. I've worked too hard to let someone else's bad choices drag me down. Still, the guilt started creeping in almost immediately. My family has a way of twisting things to make me feel like the bad guy, and this time was no different. Even though I said no, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I made the wrong call. Standing up to my family felt like the right thing in the moment, but now I'm stuck wondering if I've just made everything worse. What if they're right? What if I'm being selfish? And honestly, I still don't know what's coming next. That call was just the start, and what happened afterward caught me completely off guard. I have a feeling this isn't over, but I'll fill you all in as things unfold. I'll post an update soon. Update 1. Hey guys. So I thought things might cool down for a bit. Maybe she'd stew for a while and then let it go. Turns out I was way off. The drama ramped up hard and honestly I wasn't ready for it. It's been a total mess, and I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with it. Let me break it down. After I hung up on my mom, things went from bad to worse. I knew she wouldn't let it go, but I wasn't prepared for the sheer level of guilt-tripping and harassment that followed. My phone was blowing up constantly. First, it was my mom with texts like, "We raised you better than this, and you'll regret turning your back on your family." Then my dad jumped in with his 2 cents, even though he's usually the silent type. His messages were short and to the point, like, "You're better than this," or "Do the right thing." But Anna? Oh, Anna went all out. She sent me this long, whiny text about how her life was falling apart and how she didn't deserve to be abandoned. She threw in stuff like, "I've always looked up to you, and now you're just leaving me to suffer, and you're rich. It's not like $40,000 would even make a dent for you." That made me laugh. Rich? Let me tell you, just because I'm not living paycheck to paycheck doesn't mean I'm swimming in cash. The entitlement in her tone was unbelievable. I didn't reply to any of them. I thought maybe if I ignored it, they'd realize I wasn't going to budge and just let it go. A couple of days later, I got a call from my aunt. She's one of the few family members I actually get along with, so I picked up. She sounded awkward, like she didn't want to be making the call but felt like she had to. She said my mom had been telling everyone in the family that I was refusing to help Anna and that I was letting her sink. According to my mom, Anna's life was in danger, and I was just standing by, watching it happen. My aunt didn't believe all of it, but she wanted to hear my side. I explained the whole situation, including the part where Anna got herself into this mess and expected me to magically fix it. My aunt was shocked but supportive. She told me I wasn't wrong to say no, and that Anna needed to face the consequences of her actions. Hearing that helped a little, but the damage was already done. My mom had spread the story far and wide, twisting it to make me look like the villain. I started getting texts from cousins, uncles, and even a couple of old family friends. Most of them were vague, like, "You should really think about what family means, or you'll regret this one day." Some were outright nasty. One of my cousins called me selfish and said I was acting like I was too good for the family. I ignored them all, but the constant barrage was exhausting. And then things escalated. One afternoon, I got a call from my bank. At first, I thought it was a scam, because who actually gets calls from their bank? But the guy on the line explained that someone had tried to access my accounts using fake identification. They flagged it as suspicious because the documents didn't match up, and thankfully, nothing was taken. I immediately knew who was behind it, Anna. It had to be her. She was desperate, and if she was willing to drag the entire family into this, why wouldn't she try to steal from me? I asked the bank for more details, but they couldn't tell me much, other than that they'd locked my accounts temporarily as a precaution. I thanked them and hung up, but I was furious. This wasn't just guilt-tripping or emotional manipulation anymore, this was criminal. I need answers, so I'm thinking of confronting Anna directly. What would you guys do if you were in my place? Thanks for sticking around. I'll keep you updated. Tuarte too soon. Hey again, y'all. Been waiting for the confrontation news? Sorry for being late. Here's how it went. After I decided to confront Anna, I was still fuming when I pulled up to her apartment later that evening. I hadn't told her I was coming, and honestly, I wasn't even sure what I was going to say. All I knew was that I needed to look her in the eye and hear her admit what she'd done. Maybe a part of me hoped she'd deny it, give me some reason to believe my sister wasn't the type of person who'd stoop this low. When she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me, but not in a "what are you doing here" kind of way. It was more like she'd been expecting me to show up eventually. She was wearing sweats, and her hair was a mess, like she'd just rolled out of bed. Not that I cared about her appearance, but it added to the whole vibe of, I don't have my life together. "What are you doing here?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe like this was some casual visit. I didn't even bother easing into it. "Did you try to steal from me?" I asked, holding up my phone with the bank alert still on the screen. My voice was probably louder than it needed to be, but I couldn't help it. I was pissed. Her face froze for a second, and I thought, maybe she'll lie, maybe she'll try to deny it. But no, instead she rolled her eyes like I was overreacting and said, "Oh, come on. You weren't going to help me, so what choice did I have? What choice did she have?" I stared at her, dumbfounded. "Do you even hear yourself? You tried to steal from me because I wouldn't bail you out of your own mess. That's not just wrong, Anna. That's illegal." She shrugged, actually shrugged, like we were talking about borrowing a sweater or something. "Mom and Dad said you'd come around eventually," she said, crossing her arms. "They told me to push you harder, that you'd cave if I made it serious enough." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You've got to be kidding me," I said. "They encouraged you to do this? To commit fraud? Do you even realize how insane that sounds?" "They didn't tell me to commit fraud," she said. "They just said you wouldn't let me sink if you thought I was really in trouble. And guess what? I am in trouble. I don't have anyone else to turn to." I was so angry I could barely think straight. "You don't have anyone else to turn to because you've burned every bridge you've ever had," I shouted. "This isn't just about the money, Anna. It's about the fact that you've never taken responsibility for anything in your life, and now you're dragging me into your mess because you're too selfish to deal with the consequences of your own actions. She didn't even flinch. You're being dramatic, she said, waving me off. It's not like I actually got anything from you. The bank stopped it, didn't they? So what's the big deal? The big deal, I said, is that you tried. The big deal is that you thought you had the right to steal from me just because you're too lazy to clean up your own mess. And the even bigger deal is that Mom and Dad think this is okay. That finally seemed to get under her skin. Her face twisted into this mix of anger and embarrassment, but instead of apologizing, she doubled down. You think you're so much better than me, don't you? She spat. Just because you've got your fancy job and your stupid house, you think you can sit there and judge me. Well, guess what, big brother? You wouldn't be where you are without Mom and Dad. They sacrificed everything for us, and this is how you repay them. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes out when you're so frustrated you don't know what else to do. Mom and Dad didn't sacrifice anything for me, I said. I paid rent at 18. I put myself through college. Every sacrifice they made was for you, Anna. They handed you everything on a silver platter while I was left to figure things out on my own. So don't even try to pull the family loyalty card with me. She didn't have a response to that. Or maybe she did, but she didn't say it out loud. Instead, she just stood there, glaring at me, like I was the bad guy in all of this. I couldn't take it anymore. You know what? I said, stepping back toward the door. I'm done. I'm done with you, I'm done with Mom and Dad, and I'm done with this entire toxic family dynamic. You want to ruin your life? Fine, but you're not taking me down with you. I left before she could say anything else. On the drive home, my hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard that my knuckles were white. I was angry, sure, but more than that, I was hurt, not just by Anna, but by my parents, too. How could they think this was okay? How could they justify encouraging her to pull something like this? When I got home, I sat down and made a list of all the things I needed to do to protect myself. I called my bank to double-check that my accounts were secure. I changed all my passwords. I even called a lawyer friend to ask what my options were if Anna tried something like this again. He told me I could press charges if I wanted to, but I wasn't ready to go that far yet. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I could have handled it differently. But deep down, I knew the truth. No matter what I said or did, Anna wouldn't change, and as long as my parents kept enabling her, she'd never have to. After the confrontation with Anna, I thought things couldn't get worse. I mean, how much lower could they sink? Turns out I underestimated my family's talent for making bad situations even worse. It started about a week later. My parents showed up at my house. No call, no text, just them standing on my porch like they owned the place. I debated not answering the door, but I figured they'd just keep ringing the bell until I caved. So, I opened it. My mom didn't even bother with a greeting. She shoved past me like she was entitled to be there, her face red with anger. My dad followed her inside, looking uncomfortable but clearly there to back her up. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and braced myself. This has gone far enough, my mom yelled, spinning around to face me. We need to talk. I crossed my arms. I think we've already said everything that needs to be said. No, we haven't, she said. You need to stop this nonsense and help your sister. She's family. She's your responsibility. I stared at her, absolutely dumbfounded. My responsibility, I said, getting pissed off. Anna is a grown adult who got herself into this mess. I'm not her parent, and I'm certainly not her ATM. My mom's face twisted in frustration. Do you think we like asking you for help? Do you think this is easy for us? This is about family loyalty. You don't just abandon your family when things get tough. I laughed bitterly. You mean the loyalty you showed when you charged me rent at 18? Or when you made me pay for my own college while Anna got everything handed to her? Or how about when you let her screw up over and over again and just expected me to fix it? Yeah, no thanks. My dad finally spoke up, his voice low and serious. Do you think we've had an easy life raising 2 kids and trying to give you both the best we could? We sacrificed so much for you. Stop, I said, cutting him off. Just stop. Every sacrifice you made was for Anna. Every time something went wrong, you bent over backward to fix it for her while I had to fend for myself. And you know what? That's fine. I don't need your help, and I never have. But don't stand here and lecture me about loyalty when you've been enabling her bad behavior for years. My mom's face turned bright red, and I could tell she was about to lose it. If you don't help her, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life, she hissed. Do you want her to end up on the streets? Do you want her blood on your hands? And there it was, the same guilt trip she'd tried to pull during that phone call. I felt my blood boiling. I just didn't understand their logic. I'm not responsible for what happens to Anna, I said. She made her choices. If she ends up on the streets, that's on her. and on you for never teaching her how to be accountable for her actions." My mom was practically shaking with rage at this point. "Fine," she spat. "If this is the kind of person you want to be, don't expect us to be there for you when you need us." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I've never needed you," I said coldly, "and after this, I never will." For a moment, the room was dead silent. My dad looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. My mom just glared at me, her chest heaving like she was about to explode. Then, without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed out. My dad followed her, but he paused at the door to give me one last look, a mix of disappointment and something else I couldn't quite place, maybe regret. Then he left too. As soon as the door closed behind them, I felt this overwhelming sense of relief. I didn't care about their approval, their guilt trips, or their toxic idea of family loyalty. I was done. But of course they weren't. The next day, I got an email from my mom. It was long and rambling, full of the usual guilt-tripping nonsense. She accused me of being ungrateful and cruel. She said I was abandoning my family in their time of need, and that I'd broken her heart. She even hinted that she and my dad might cut me out of their will, like that was supposed to scare me into submission. I didn't respond. What was the point? Then Anna started up again. She sent me this dramatic text about how she was losing everything and how it was all my fault. She said she'd had to sell her car, that she was behind on rent, and that she was being harassed by her creditors. Honestly, I didn't feel bad. She dug her own hole. Now she had to deal with it. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail, not from my family, but from a lawyer. My parents were threatening to sue me. The letter claimed I had a moral obligation to support Anna, and that I'd irreparably harmed the family by refusing to help. It was laughable, really. I forwarded the letter to my own lawyer, who assured me it was complete garbage. They didn't have a leg to stand on, and nothing would come of it. But the fact that they even tried, that was it for me. I was done. Done with Anna, done with my parents, done with the whole toxic family dynamic. I blocked their numbers, deleted them from social media, and told the few relatives I still spoke to that I wasn't interested in hearing anything about my parents or Anna. Most of them understood, though a couple tried to convince me to find a way to make peace. I shut that down real quick. Peace wasn't possible with people who saw me as nothing more than a safety net for Anna's bad decisions. Here's where I am right now. I feel miserable. Do you think it's normal for a family to go this far? Final update. Hello again. I decided to write a final update once I figured things out, so here goes. After sending that lawyer's letter straight to the trash and forwarding it to my lawyer just in case, I finally made a decision that had been creeping up on me for years. I was going no contact, completely permanently. I'd been hanging on to some small, fragile hope that my family might change, but the lawyer's stunt was proof enough. They weren't going to stop. If anything, they were doubling down on their toxic behavior, and I wasn't going to let them drag me any further into their chaos. So I went full-on block mode. My mom, my dad, Anna, everyone got the chop. I blocked their numbers, their emails, everything. Honestly, hitting that block button felt weirdly good. Then I went through my socials and wiped them off there too. No way was I leaving any doors open for them to sneak back in. I shot a quick text to the few family members I actually like, mostly cousins, letting them know I was done with the family drama and asking them not to play messenger for anyone. Most of them were cool about it, but of course, a couple hit me with the whole, "but they're your family" guilt trip. My response? Short and sweet, being family doesn't mean you get to treat me like crap. The hardest part was explaining the situation to a few mutual friends who knew my parents. Some of them couldn't believe what I was telling them, like they literally couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that my parents and sister had tried to steal from me, guilt me, and now sue me. One friend even asked, "Are you sure there's not more to the story?" As if I'd somehow left out the part where this was all my fault. I felt awful, but I let it go. The people who mattered believed me, and that was enough. The first week of no contact was tough, not because I missed them, I didn't, but because they didn't give up easily. Even with their numbers blocked, they found ways to get through. My mom started calling from unknown numbers, leaving these long, dramatic voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart. She'd say things like, "We just want to talk," or "You're punishing us for trying to do the right thing." It was exhausting. I didn't listen to most of the messages, I just deleted them as soon as I realized who they were from. Then there were the letters. My parents must have gone straight from their lawyer's office to the post office because the letters started coming almost immediately. At first, they were mostly nonsense, my mom writing pages and pages about how much she'd sacrificed for me and how I was breaking her heart. My dad chimed in too, though his letters were more direct. One of them actually said, "If you don't help Anna, don't expect us to ever forgive you." Forgive me? For what exactly? For not letting my sister steal from me? For not enabling her bad decisions? The sheer audacity of it was almost funny. By the second week, their messages went completely off the rails. My mom's letters turned desperate, almost unhinged, throwing out vague threats like, "You'll regret this one day, and you'll be sorry when it's too late." It was all guilt and doom, like she was trying to scare me back into line. My dad, though, didn't hold back. His letters were straight up venomous, calling me selfish, ungrateful, and arrogant. He ranted about how I'd forgotten where I came from and was betraying the people who made you who you are. It wasn't just guilt anymore. It felt like they were trying to break me down, like they couldn't handle losing their grip on me. And then there was Anna. Oh, Anna didn't waste any time playing the victim. She sent me this long, handwritten letter, probably because she knew I'd blocked her emails, saying how much I'd hurt her, how she couldn't believe I'd abandoned her in her time of need. She wrote stuff like, "You've always been my rock, and now you're just leaving me to drown, and I thought you cared about me, but clearly I was wrong." But I just couldn't believe her audacity. She ended the letter by asking for money again. Not $40,000 this time, just a small loan of $5,000 to help her get back on her feet. She even promised to pay me back as soon as things got better. I laughed so hard I nearly cried, like I was going to fall for that after everything she'd done. But my mom went full crazy mode by showing up at my office. Yeah, she actually rolled up to my workplace, unannounced. She stormed into the lobby, demanding to see me, and when the receptionist wouldn't budge, she lost it. She started yelling loud enough for the whole building to hear, calling me a horrible son and screaming about how I was destroying the family. Security had to step in and physically escort her out. I stood there, watching the whole thing from the mezzanine, completely frozen. My coworkers didn't say a word, but their faces? Pure shock. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. That was it. I'd had enough. I wasn't just mad, I was done. That night, I contacted a family law attorney, not the friend I'd casually consulted earlier, an actual pro. I laid out everything, the harassment, the entitlement, the insanity. She listened, asked a few sharp questions, and then told me exactly what I needed to do. The next day, we drafted a cease and desist letter. It went out to everyone, my mom, my dad, Anna, even their lawyer. It was crystal clear, contact me again and I'll take legal action. No exceptions. I didn't think they'd actually stop, but shockingly, it worked. My mom's calls stopped. The nasty letters? Gone. Even Anna, queen of the guilt trip, went radio silent. Now, 6 months after cutting ties, life feels different, quieter, lighter, and honestly better. It wasn't easy, but choosing myself over the constant chaos of my family was the best decision I've ever made. Of course, not everyone gets it. A few relatives still hit me with the same tired line, but they're your family. You know what I say to that? Family doesn't mean squat if they don't respect you. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to wreck your peace. You don't owe anyone your time, money, or sanity just because you share DNA. Boundaries aren't harsh, they're necessary. And honestly, cutting them off was the best thing I've ever done. With the drama behind me, I threw myself into work and finally got a promotion I'd been chasing for years. The little I've heard about Anna tells me she's still struggling. She's working part-time now and living with a friend after losing her apartment. I don't feel bad about it anymore. She made her bed. My parents? They're still spreading their story to anyone who'll listen, but fewer people are buying it these days. It's freeing not to care. I've also started reconnecting with people I'd lost touch with. Friends, a few cousins, and even opened up to someone I'm dating now. They've been incredibly supportive, and for the first time, I feel like I'm surrounded by people who genuinely respect me. To anyone dealing with a toxic family, I know how hard it is, but it gets better. Cutting them off felt like ripping off a Band-Aid, but the peace that followed was worth every painful moment. You owe it to yourself to choose peace, to choose you. Thanks for reading.